Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next installment of So You're About to Graduate College. I'm Patrick Kling.
I'm Dave Hall.
I'm Kelly Bailey.
How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to our adjusted time. It's 9 a.m. In China, where our guest is from, and it's 9 o'clock here in the East Coast, 6 o'clock on the West Coast. How are you guys doing? We're going on to week 25 of quarantine here.
Doing pretty good. I'm glad to be getting back to work. So,
yeah. Dave, I mean, why don't you share maybe, and then we have like a minute or two, share your story if you're willing to share it.
So, yeah, I mean, I've been talking with Scenario, Cockrum Company, for a few weeks now, and they've been kind of on a hiring freeze. So, they finally were in a place they could bring me on as a BIM coordinator. So I was laid off due to all this coronavirus, and one of the first ones, I think, to find work after that. So hopefully it's a good trend, and more companies start doing that.
So that's fantastic. So the networking king, Dave, has landed a gig. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we got a great show today. We're going to be talking with Paul all about crafting your elevator pitch, which is super important. But before we get into that, I do want to do a shout out. Basically, in 2 weeks from Friday, we're going to be bringing on a very special guest, Cynthia Brown from Museum EXP. She is an extraordinarily creative person that helps put museum exhibits together. So this is a very interesting topic because museums and theme parks, there's a lot in common. There's a lot of cross disciplines that go into both of them. So we're going to be talking with Cynthia Brown and kind of exposing the world of museums and exhibit design, which is going to be super fun. That's Friday, June 12th, 9 a.m. Pacific and 12 p.m. Eastern, kind of back to our usual time slot on Fridays at noon Eastern. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be super exciting. Folks, if you're watching, go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments just so we know who's watching. That's always fun to do. So I see a couple of recognizable names. I see Kelly Bailey. You're on the show. I see Robbie Brown.
We know you're here.
Have you? So go ahead and introduce yourself. That'd be fantastic. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and I'm going to say goodbye to Dave and Kelly for now. And we're going to bring on Paul. All right. Here we go. Hey, Paul. Good morning.
Hi, Patrick. How are you doing?
Oh, living the dream. Living in the dream here.
I'm speaking to you from the future because it's 9 a.m, Friday morning here.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of confusion on our end for trying to get Kelly on the phone earlier, and then this. But you know what? It works out great. This is the window that it all works out for everybody.
It always happens. This is not unusual when we deal with a lot of companies in the West, as we say, and it's always a confusion. It's easy for East Coast because right now it's 12 hours exactly. But then you're trying to think, okay, well, you're not on the East Coast. You're in Chicago. So what's that like? And then the math always messes up. But we're good now.
Yeah, here we are. So why don't before we kind of dive into your experience, how about I roll some tape from your company? How does that sound?
That sounds great. My new company.
Right, the new company. All right, sounds great. Here we go.
Creativity is our persistent mission. Century Culture and Tourism Company Limited is the most excellent media group in China with the most complete production chain. A large comprehensive media group involved in all media marketing, brand operation, program production, investment in and release of films and television, large-scale show activities, culture and tourism industry, and other businesses. We are committed to creating all media marketing with creativity from online to offline, from traditional media to new media, from content marketing to brand planning, from regional layout to national strategy. Our professional services are everywhere. We are focused on building Chinese city brands with international influence, deeply implanting urban cultural tourism into city marketing to create many distinct city brand images. Many dreams stem from creativity. In Century Culture and Tourism Company Limited, we have the ability to shape dreams and translate dreams into reality. We are hand in hand with Evergrande, creating a world top-class fairyland theme park with a core of Chinese cultural elements. Based in cultural industries, we have reached in-depth cooperation with hundreds of famous domestic and foreign film and television companies, and invested and issued many profound, meaningful, and influential classic movies and television programs. We lead in the development direction of fashionable cultures with sharp senses. In cooperation with many satellite televisions, we have planned, produced, and operated many excellent phenomenal programs. We build a unique platform in China. As a medium for global culture communication, we have introduced many high-level, large international shows, and are in charge of overall program activity, planning, and implementation. In future, we will abide by the corporate development model, with creativity as the locomotive and culture and tourism investment and marketing as two wings, to bring finer and happier life to people by creativity. Sincerity, diligence, profession. Century Culture and Tourism Company Limited.
Well, there you go. Pretty snappy.
Can there be much more of a marketing piece of media?
It had every number.
It did, and I had all the buzzwords in there. Essentially, our company here started about 20 years ago as a advertisement company. They did branding and advertisement, and they focused a lot on cultural areas, so like cities want to brand themselves, or provinces would want to brand themselves, and that's where they got their start. And then at some point, they made an alliance with some Broadway producing companies and some film companies, and they started branding. And about 3 years ago, they got asked if they could take up the development of a major theme park project for a company called Evergrande. And they asked me if I would lead that effort. And so that's what I've been doing here for the last couple of years. Living in China, developing what you saw a little bit of was a fairyland parks for a company called Evergrande.
Gotcha. And you're located in Beijing?
Yeah, our company's in Beijing. We have some people down in Shenzhen. The client is based in Guangzhou and Hong Kong. So we're all over China. Gotcha.
Cool. Well, why don't we jump into your presentation here, and then we can learn a little bit more about you. How does that sound?
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and let me know if it shows up.
Let's see if you get a shout. Screen. Yeah, it should be. There we go. In the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, great. So there is nothing more important that you're going to write this year than your elevator pitch or your brand statement of who you are. It's your calling card, right? It's anytime you meet somebody that wants to know you, you have to be prepared to have this pitch ready. And this pitch can be 15 seconds. It can be 3 minutes. It's going to be, depending on what situation you're in, you're going to adjust that pitch. So let's get into it. In the beginning, there was this guy. So yes, that's me in the middle. My career. By the way, everybody has a imagine about what your career is going to be, and that's great. But it's not going to be that, right? It's going to be something different. I went to school. I went to college actually to become a firefighter. That's my background, and I had a passion for making things with my hands, and I happened to meet somebody who was doing a rehab on like this little roadside attraction. They were looking for somebody that could sculpt. And so in the evening, I would do that, and I loved it, and I never turned back. So that was 40 years ago, and I like to say that back then my hair was like Pinocchio, and now it's like Geppetto, unfortunately. But that's what it is. So that's obviously Disney. That was Tokyo Disneyland. So that was probably 1980, 83 probably. So, and I still do that thing with my tongue when I'm concentrating. Everybody points that out to me. So let's get into it. Okay, the 30-second elevator pitch and beyond. And I say beyond because we're going to talk a little bit about Slice networking events, and we're going to talk a little bit about GibGab and how those, you're going to have to adjust your 30-second pitch for those because they're unique situations. Okay, so let's jump into it. First, what is an elevator pitch? As I mentioned to you before, it's your calling card. It's your initial introduction to a hiring person, a recruiter, or somebody that can possibly give you a job. And by the way, the elevator pitch, we're going to talk really about your personal elevator pitch. But if you're going to start your own company, you want to create your own company pitch too, because your company will be a little bit different than you. But the idea is that in a very quick amount of time, you want to tell the people who you are, what you do, and what you can do for them. That's really what it's all about, okay? So it sounds rather simple, right? But it can be a little bit challenging if you don't follow kind of some pretty simple rules. And we're going to go through that. Okay, here's the process that I find works for me and it works for a lot of people. First thing is you want to write your goals down. What is it that you want out of when you meet somebody? What do you want? You want to get a job. You want to get an introduction so you can meet somebody else. You want to learn more about their company. What are the goals that you want out of this introduction? So you want to get and again, you want to answer these three questions. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you looking for? Very simple. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to edit it. You're going to take that big red pen and you're going to delete everything that's not critical to your pitch. Everything that's like ancillary or extraneous to what you want, you got to take that out. Because remember, we're going to try and get this down to 30 seconds. You want to tell everybody who you are, what you're about in 30 seconds. So you can't spend time telling somebody your life story, right? And when you think about it, the way we speak about 75 words in 30 seconds. You know, it depends. I speak fast, so I'm a little bit more than that. Some people speak slowly. But if you can imagine, you want to get this down to like 75 words or so. And again, this is, we're gonna talk a little bit about altering it to make it shorter. We want to make it a little bit longer. But start with editing it down till you get to about 75 words, key bullet points or sentences. I tend to use bullet points because then it makes me, when I speak, it makes it sound more natural. Because I think when you write sentences down, you tend to read them, and we don't speak the way we write. We don't. It's a different process. So I tend to do bullet points as kind of reminders of where I want the conversation to go. Okay. Next, you got to tune into station WIFM. Station WIFM is the station that every recruitment manager, hiring person, they're all listening to WIFM. And that basically is what's in it for me. What's in it for me? That's what they're thinking about. How are you going to help my team? How are you going to help my project? How are you going to add value? So are you going to be a disruptor? Are you going to disrupt my team? So they're all thinking about WIFM, what's in it for me. So it's important that when you craft your speech, you're crafting it for the audience. You're not crafting it for yourself. You're crafting it for the listener, okay? It's very important to think in those terms because it's really important because they're only going to be thinking about what's in it for me, and they're not really going to be thinking about, oh, this person's they're just not thinking about that. They're going to hear pitches from dozens of people every day, and so you want to be able to stand out. So if you can make it sound like I thought about your needs, and here's how I can help you with your needs, then you will stand out. Okay, so format it. Now here's a little example of WIFM, and let me just do it. Let me do a bad example, and then I'll try to do a good example. So here's a bad example. Hi, I'm Paul Osterhout. I'm a show producer. I have 30 years experience working for theme park companies, and I'd like to talk to you about employment opportunities. Okay, so that is an elevator pitch. It's not something that I would, if I was a recruiter, something I would remember. It needs to be more powerful. It needs to be a little bit more about, again, thinking about how you're going to help them. How are you going to help their business So here's another version of that that's a little bit better that kind of addresses those things. Hi, I'm Paul Osterhout. I'm an executive producer, 30 years experience, designing and delivering world-class attractions in the theme park industry. And I'd like to speak to you about how I can assist you with your just announced international projects. So again, you're putting in some subtle words here. Like for me, I put in executive producer, which implies to them, oh, this person leads teams. He can be a leader. I have international experience. I have lots of experience working with different kinds of teams. So you're starting to set these little subtle hints into their mind using the words that you choose. So, obviously we're speaking to a lot of people today, but probably a lot of college students who are just graduating. So you're not going to be able to have that kind of breadth or that kind of experience. But I think if you start to think about what are your skills as opposed to what are the assignments that you've done, I think you'll find it a little bit easier to craft that statement, okay? Also, you want to be able to know a little bit about their business. So you want to do, if you're going to go meet a recruiter or if you're going to go to a TEA mixer or a slice event, you're going to want to find out who is the audience. Oh, SeaWorld's going to be there. Oh, Universal's going to be there. Or Brian Murrow's going to be there. So you want to do a little bit of research and find out a little bit about each of their companies. That way you can get a sense of what they may be looking for, right? Brian Morrow just announced we're doing all these museum projects. Okay, so when you meet Brian, you go like, Brian, I just heard you're doing all these museum projects. That's great. Let me tell you, I'm really great at AutoCAD, and we've done a lot of projects about museums. And so now you've got a jumping off point to help with your elevator pitch. Okay? All right. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the problem with most elevator pitches is you write it down on paper, but that's not the way we communicate with people. We don't typically do that in a social situation. We talk. So what you want to do is take your piece of paper and you want to craft it as a conversational kind of thing. So you want to practice in front of a mirror. Does it sound natural? Does it come freely? Does it flow well? So, you're going to have to play around with the words a little bit. You're going to have adjustments. Keep in mind the key points of who you are, what you can do, and how you can help, and what you're looking for. But you're going to have to now make it more of a conversational kind of way. Another trick is to try to avoid technical jargon. Try to avoid, inside kind of nomenclature. Sometimes the first person you meet may be a hiring manager who doesn't actually work for the company. They're just a phone screener, and you don't want to come across and kind of make them feel stupid because they're asking you, well, what does that mean? Well, because you want to kind of get that rapport a little bit better and get them to like you. So if you can keep it usually more simple terms, try to avoid industry jargon unless you're a mechanical engineer and some of that technical jargon you have to use because that's how you describe what you can do, then that's okay. But for the most part, try and keep it simple and try and keep it authentic. Okay. Practice. I can't stress this enough. The more you practice, the more you're comfortable with who you are, and the more it just rolls off your tongue. Because here's an example. Whenever I do a pitch for an attraction or a park or something, I tend to know that park or that attraction inside and out. You could ask me anything about that attraction and I'll know it right off the top of my head. The same thing should be true for your elevator pitch. You know you better than anybody else. So you need to be able to answer any question. Well, tell me, did you like college? Did you have a good time? What projects? You need to have all of these things figured out in your head before you go and meet the recruitment manager or the hiring manager. Think about all this stuff and just practice. And for me, I can't stand in front of a mirror and practice or rehearse. It's just something I can't do. But I will go on a long walk and I'll run the whole thing through my head many times so that when I'm done with the walk, I can just recite exactly. And by the way, when I walk, I'll start to choose different words. I'll start to hear it in my head, how I'm going to say it, so it sounds more conversational, okay? So the other thing is, the more you practice, the more you can relax, because there's nothing There's nothing for anybody, me or anybody who is in this industry for a long time or just starting out. There's nothing more stressful than being interviewed for a project. We get interviewed for projects all the time. Clients want to talk to us. Well, tell me about your experience. So there's nothing more stressful about trying to sell yourself, and that's exactly what we're trying to teach you to do today, is how to sell yourself. So the more you can practice, the more you can relax, and you feel more confident. And when you exude confidence, then the client or the hiring manager relaxes, because like, oh, this person, I trust this person is speaking from authority. They know what they're talking about. I feel good about making a recommendation to hire this person. So try and relax and speak with confidence. So you want to mix it up a little bit. You don't want to just have a 30-second elevator pitch and say, oh, I'm done. I got it all done, all set. So sometimes you may only have 15 seconds. You may be at some IAPA event and somebody comes up and says, hey, let me introduce you to Bob Weiss. And Bob's a pretty busy guy. So you got like 10 seconds. You got 15 seconds to make an impression. So you want to be able to be concise. You want to be, hey, Bob, nice to meet you. I'm blah, blah. I just graduated from SCAD or UCLA or wherever. And I do this. And if you're ever, if you need, I would love to talk to you some more about that. Done. 15 seconds. That's all you're going to get. You've made an impression. You've been professional about it. And so sometimes you get networks have to craft different versions of your pitch. Obviously, with longer time, you're going to go into a little bit more detail about your skill sets. So just think about that.
Great.
All right. I talked about this already. Confidence. Confidence is so important. You could have crafted the best 75 words that anybody could have crafted, but if you're unsure and your voice is halting and your voice is quavering and you're just shaking, it's just going to fall flat. It's not going to be good. So again, practice, get confident. Go find your most contrarian friend and practice with your most contrarian friend. Be brutal about it. And take their advice with a grain of salt, because they're contrarian. But it gives you a time to practice with different people. And
so I have a question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
So you said confidence, which is kind of a word that it can be hard for maybe people who haven't been in the industry, or they don't necessarily think they have a long resume that they are confident about. So is there any kind of tips you have to try to build people's self-esteem? Like, how do you work up your self-esteem to the point where you think that you do matter and that you're worth it, just like any other person out there? I know it's a little bit self-helpy, but do you have any guidelines or any thoughts about that?
So let me tell you about me. I am the not worst. I am a introvert. I've kind of turned into an ambivert later in life because of confidence. But early in my career, I was an introvert. I was so. And by the way, shy and introvert are different things, but I was very shy and I was not very confident. Luckily, I got some breaks, and I had skills that people overlooked my shyness, and they just assumed I didn't talk. They just said, "Oh, that's Paul. He doesn't talk." So the important thing here, especially for you coming out of college and you don't have a big portfolio, focus on your skills. And don't highlight the fact, don't apologize for the fact that you don't have a lot in your portfolio. There's no reason to apologize. Recruiters and HR people know you're just getting out of college. How could you possibly have a portfolio of any substance or breadth? So focus on your skills. You're all going to have, you've all gotten tasks or projects that you had to do in school if you're coming out of school. So be happy to show that. With one caution here, don't take credit for stuff you didn't do. That you'll always get exposed for that. So if you worked on a class project with 6 other people, highlight what you did. Obviously, hopefully you're proud of it. I mean, even if it's we just redesigned the cafeteria bathrooms. Okay, so what? You're proud of what you did? Then be proud of it. It doesn't matter what it was, but what it matters is you did it, you're proud of it, and no one can take that away from you. So think about your successes and be proud of what you've done. It doesn't matter that you didn't build the $100 million roller coaster at Universal. You will get there, but it's understood that you're not there now. So just be proud of what you've done, and confidence is a hard thing to tell people. I can't tell you how to feel, right? I can't, no matter what I just can't tell you how to feel. I can just tell you to be proud of what you've done, and you're in the same situation as hundreds of other people are just graduating into this industry. So just try and be proud of what you've done, and be confident in your skills. If you're really good at Photoshop or Unity game engine, whatever it is you're doing, be proud of your skills. But be careful. Don't be a butthead about it. You know what I mean? Don't be you want to be what's the word? You want to be humble. You want to be humble about it. You are, unless you're a true rock star, and there aren't many of those, just be humble about it and show a willingness to learn. Say, hey, I did this project with my other classmates. I was responsible for this and this and this, and I love the process, and I would really love to come into your company to explore the process and learn how you guys do it. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and back to the question that Patrick was asking, how do you build confidence? How do you, especially for people who are just coming out of college and don't have a lot of experience or connections yet? Everyone's been in that position. Everyone's come into the industry not knowing anybody, going to their first mixer or give gab, not really knowing anybody, and having to go through that. And the best way to build confidence is through comfortability and just continuing to get out there and meet new people. And I mean, the way most people practice their elevator pitch is just giving it to 100 different people, and going to all of these different events. And even if you can't go to the events, if you're in a different city, different location, I mean, our industry especially is very open and willing to connect with you, especially during these times, on LinkedIn, over the phone, email, wherever. And it's just a great idea to put yourself out there and build confidence through positive engagement with our industry, because it will be positive.
Yeah.
So,
and again, you touched on it, you said it exactly. It's the more you do it, the more you're relaxed in doing, because you know where the conversation is going, because you're leading the conversation. So once you know where the conversation is going, you can relax and you get more confident. You're not worried about like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say next, because you know what you're going to say next. You've already rehearsed it, right? So now your confidence kind of builds because you're in control of the conversation, and it does help to do that, to rehearse it, to practice, to give your elevator pitch to all the people in your class or your friends, or they'll get tired of it. So what? That's the way it goes. But and listen to feedback, and you don't have to always take feedback, but listen to it, and sometimes it's pretty relevant.
Definitely.
Cool.
Okay.
Hey, we have a question that came up, Paul. If you don't mind, I throw it on the screen here. How might we be able to integrate our portfolios and projects into our elevator pitch?
Okay. So I would more look, the whole purpose of the elevator pitch. This is maybe I didn't say this right out front. The whole purpose of an elevator pitch is to get the next meeting. You want to be, because no one's going to hire you in 30 seconds of meeting you, right? That's not going to happen. What will happen though is they take an interest in you and they say, wow, I want to learn more. So the purpose of the elevator pitch is to get the next meeting. The purpose of GibGab is to get the next meeting. The whole purpose of Slice Network is to get the next meeting. You want to be able to get a one-on-one situation where you're in a controlled environment and you can actually open up your portfolio and talk about it. I mean, you do it at Slice and GibGab. You got 2 minutes. How are you going to show your portfolio in 2 minutes? For the most part, people that are interviewing at Slice or GibGab, they're looking at your portfolio to see if you have some kind of, what kind of skills you are. But more often than not, they're trying to gauge your personality. Do I think this person would fit into my culture of my company? That's the first thing we're trying to ascertain. Then we're saying, okay, yeah, this person could fit in. They seem nice. They seem like somebody I would want to be with. Now let's take a look at their hard skills. So we look at the soft skills first, and then we go to the hard skills. Like, oh, yeah, you have some skills here, or there's some talent here that needs to be massaged, but there is a passion. I can see a passion behind what you're doing, and so the idea here is to get the next meeting. So I wouldn't worry so much about getting your portfolio or any of your assignments in the elevator pitch. I would probably focus on, how do I get this person to like me enough to want to see me again? Or how can I get this person interested enough in me to want to talk to me some more? That's what I think the goal should be here.
So, and then just maybe if you want to make a comment, we have kind of a comment from Alex. I think the thing I find most difficult with elevator pitches is trying to figure out what about my experience and my career prospects is relevant to the person I'm talking to.
Well, that comes down to the research. You want to first know who you're talking to. Is it a big company? Is it a small company? Is it a museum? Is it a theme park company? Is it, I don't know, Alex, I don't know what you're trying to do, but as much as you can do some research, and then you want to adjust your elevator pitch to them. Remember, they're the audience. You want to get their ears to stick up and say, hi, I'm Alex, and this is what I do, and I can help you. I believe I could help you with whatever, because you've done your research. Yeah. I just heard that you guys got the new Hollywood Museum for the Oscars. That's awesome. I want to tell you that I grew up, loving movies, and I'm a big fan, and I would just love to get a time with you to talk more specifically about how I can help. That's what you want to get. That's the goal, right? You want to just be able to say, this is what I'm about. Can we set up a time to talk further? That's really what you should be focused on. It's not about, let me show you all the cool stuff I've done. Let me show you the projects I've brought in on budget, under schedule, or on schedule. It's not about that. It's about, let's get time to sit down more genuinely and specifically about how I can help.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of add to that a little bit. People are kind of wondering, when you go to let's say you go to a networking event, a TEA event, and there's maybe 25, 30 different companies represented. Right now, there is so much information available at the internet. If you're a prospective student and you don't have a pretty good understanding of all the different companies out there, you can go ahead and go onto the TEA website, look at all these different companies. They all have descriptions about what they do. They all have the people that are there. And the first thing that people will ask you, or you can ask each other at a TEA event, is, oh, what does your company do? Or what do you do if you're not really familiar with it? And generally speaking, the smaller companies are wanting to share what they do. And I'd also say that, I talk to people all the time, and I network with people all the time. I take meetings with people all the time where I have no immediate need, or I may not even fit into their company. But I will still just connect with them to learn more, just so that it broadens what I know in the industry, which I think is important.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, you never know what this person knows. Like if I'm looking for a job and I go talk to an engineering company, and I go, I'm not an engineer, right? Hey, I heard you guys are doing this really cool stuff. That's great. I'm an artist, or I'm a sculptor or whatever, and so I'm just interested in what you guys are doing. That's really cool. This guy that you just talked to now has an image of you, a confident person, likable. He might say, oh, you know what? You need to go talk to this guy over there. Come here. I'll go introduce you, because I think they're looking for somebody like you. You never know when those connections are going to happen. That's the whole cool thing about networking. You want to talk to as many people as you can, because we are in such a small community. This themed entertainment community is such a small community that almost everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And everybody kind of knows what projects are coming up. Oh, this company's going to do this, and then this company. And a lot of times, because we're a small community, everybody kind of talks, oh man, I got this big project. I don't know where I'm going to find all these artists. And that information is retained by somebody. And then they find out, oh, here's an artist, or here's a writer, or here's an engineer. Let me go introduce you to this person who I talked to last week, who's looking for you. And so it's important that you, even if you come across a company where you go like, well, I really wouldn't fit in there, don't worry about it. Just give your pitch anyway, because you don't know who they've talked to, and they may be, and somebody may have said to them, hey, if you hear of anybody on the market, let me know. You don't know that conversation hasn't already happened. So just, try and meet as many people as you can, and be as professional as you can with everybody.
Cool. Well, why don't we move on to the interviewing round? I believe that's nope, we're not there yet. Sorry, go ahead, throw it out.
I got a couple more slides. So
go ahead.
Be willing to throw everything out. You've written this thing. You've spent weeks agonizing over every single word. Don't be afraid to throw it out. If you go to a TEA event and you're making a conversation with somebody and you're having a nice time knowing each other, don't go into the cold pitch. It'll sound like a cold pitch. It'll sound like, it won't sound real. So just talk to the person normally, like you would normally do, and don't worry about getting your pitch in. You kind of work it in a little bit, but don't go to your hard, I'm going to say these 75 words, okay? Because that won't work. All right. So a little bit about Slice Creative and GibGab, because these are a little different in that when you're at a mixer or something like that, you're kind of like walking around and it's more of a one-on-one kind of a thing. These events are great. They're so beneficial to people who are in the market and people who are looking for people in the market, because it creates an atmosphere where it's like speed dating, right? Everybody's in the same room for the same reason. But it's a little different because now you've got 3 minutes and you're on a hard time, right? So you've got to get everything out. So if you've got a 30-second pitch, and then you're going to look at each other for another 2 minutes, that's not going to be working. So you got to think about, now I'm going to spread it out for 3 minutes. But the goal is the same. You want to get the next meeting. No one's going to hire you probably at Slice Creative Network, or no one's going to hire you at GibGab. They're going to write your name down and they're going to follow up with you. Okay. So the goal here is to get next meeting. So what I try to do is gather intel. Who's going to be there? Who are the people who are going to be interviewing? Are there big companies, small companies, museum companies, theme park companies? Who are they? And so, find out who's going to be interviewing you. Are they HR recruiters? Are they hiring managers? Maybe they're colleagues that you know. Find out who it is, and then you can gather information on those companies that you're going to use later. And I'm going to tell you how you're going to use some of that later. How long are you going to have to present yourself? Typically you'll know beforehand. It's 2 minutes, it's 3 minutes, whatever it is. Here's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. How is the room set up? So try and get there early. See where the tables are. Look at the lighting. If you're going to show your portfolio like on your iPad, sometimes these things are in restaurants and they have horrible just straight down lighting. So think about that. Think about, I'm going to show my portfolio and there's going to be this blinding light right on top of it. So I have to rethink how I'm going to do this. Or the person I'm pitching to, his back is going to be towards a window and the sun is setting. So I have to So really, this is a job to look for a job, right? So think about this as a job. You're going to go and do some research and you're going to try and present yourself in the best way possible. Also, you want to know who else will be presenting, who else is going to be who's your competition, right? Think of this as a sporting endeavor. Who's the competition? Who do I have to beat out here? Yeah, they can still be my friends, but I want to win. I want the job. So think about who else is presenting. You might want to structure, especially if it's like a classroom of people that you just graduated with and you're all presenting at the same thing. You might want to think about how you're going to want to stand out. So think about that as well. A couple more. Prepare. Update your portfolio, update your contact information. Make sure you understand what are they looking for. So again, WIFM, what are they looking for? So you may have to alter your presentation. And again, differentiate yourself. You're not one-on-one. You're competing with dozens of people now. So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be different? Sometimes, and by the way, depending on who's interviewing you, they may be thinking about, does this person fit in? They may be looking at your soft skills, your people skills. How do you problem solve? How do you communicate? And a lot of that stuff is not really what you do. So some people will be looking for your hard skills. So think about that. Look professional. Don't pull out a wrinkled resume from your backpack. Make sure your portfolio is easily accessible. If it's on an iPad, make sure it's up and loaded. You don't have to wait for an internet connection to once you get to the table. Remember, the clock is running. You got 3 minutes. And is your iPad covered with fingerprints? And guess what? Yes, it is. It always is. Again, for you college graduates, focus on your skills, not your assignments, because you don't have a lot of assignments a lot of in your portfolio to talk about. Think about what you're leaving behind. You're going to leave a card. You're going to leave your portfolio. What are you leaving behind? And then be sure to ask for follow-up. Be sure to thank the interviewers, thank whoever's there. Thank you very much. I'd like to follow up in case something I forgot to mention to you. Would that be okay? 10 times out of 10, they're going to say fine. Okay? So hopefully you've got their contact information. And now we're going to talk a little bit about following up. So you haven't heard the last from me because we're going to follow up now. So how soon should you follow up? Typically, I would recommend about a week. They've spent their whole night interviewing 30, 40 people. They're going to get back in the office the next day. They're going to have a lot of real work stuff that they have to do. They're going to have to parse through everybody they met. So give them a little bit of time. Give them a week. Depending on your rapport with the interviewer, how often you should follow up is you have to depend on what they say. If they say, well, we have nothing coming up for the next few months, so we'll let you know. Well, they already told you next few months, so I wouldn't wait for them to let me know. I would put in my calendar, follow up in a few months. I wouldn't follow up more than every week because then you become like creepy and a stalker. Yeah. So to send a thank you note or not, always send a thank you note. In the old days, you'd want to do a handwritten note because it shows you took time and some thought behind it. I understand it's not 1964 now. So an email is fine, but here's the key. Have a reason to follow up. Don't just say, hey, thanks for your time. Let me know if there's anything coming up. Put something in your note that says you care about this company. Like, hey, I forgot to mention while we talked that I put some more thought into the question you asked me, and I wanted to expand on that. Or, hey, I just saw in the paper that you guys announced a new project. Congratulations. Again, I'm still out there if you need somebody with these skill sets. And again, congratulations. Find a reason to send them a note as part of your thank you. Okay? So you don't want to just say, thanks, let me know. You want to make some kind of connection, because at the end of the day, because you've created a personal connection with somebody. Always. Because you've created a personal connection, that's how you get hired. So if they feel comfortable with you, they feel like, hey, we can talk about this, we can have a dialogue about this, that puts you a step above everybody else. Okay? Okay, you did it. You landed a follow-up. Now what? Well, you want to do your research on the company and the interviewer. This is typically much more focused, one-on-one. It may be a phone interview. If it's a first interview, if it's a big company like Disney or Universal, it will be a phone interview. You're going to go through 4 layers of interviewing before you actually get to talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Here's another thing. You want to prepare your stock questions. Every time you go to an interview, I promise you they will ask you these 2 questions. How much money do you want? And can you describe to me a situation where you had a challenge and you had to solve it? 100% of the time, you're going to get these 2 questions. Now, I told you you're going to get these 2 questions, so now you need to start preparing what your answers are going to be. And there's something about questions and answers. Don't think of it that way. Think of it as questions and response. Someone's going to ask you a question. You owe them a response. You don't owe them an answer. So if somebody says, so your portfolios looks really good. How much would it take to get you into our company? Well, I'm going to say, well, for me, it's the money is not the driving factor for me to work with you. I want to work with you. I want to work with a professional organization. I believe I can bring so much to the table, but I know I'm out of school and I could learn so much. So it's really not about the money. It's about the entire experience. Done. Stop talking. You've given them a response without telling them how much you want to make. They may press you on it. If they do, then you can say, well, it's really not about just the salary. It's everything. It's the benefits, and it's a whole package. You want to try to avoid answering those kinds of questions in this interview. Let them make you an offer. They know how much they can afford. You don't want to go in too high and get shut out. You don't want to go in too low and leave money on the table. So try and just give a response and forget it. The other question is they will always ask you, tell me how you've problem solved whatever. Always. You're always going to get that question. So, prepare an answer. Now, when they finally ask you that question, don't jump right in with the answer, because you want to be thoughtful. You want to like, oh, that's an interesting question. Take a sip of water, take a breath. Oh, I remember one time we were in, and then you go into your answer. But practice those stock answers, stock questions. Again, we've already talked about this. Practice your interview skills.
Yeah.
Look alive. Don't slouch in the chair. Don't yawn. Look like you want to be there. I want to be here. I want to be in your company, right? Act professionally. That means depending on where you're going to go to work, you're going to dress appropriately. Even if you go to a work where they wear jeans and t-shirts, hey, put a blazer on, dress it up a little bit. You want to be a little bit professional. Try and make it a two-way conversation. Don't make it where they're just asking you questions and you're giving answers. Have a conversation with somebody. If you're going to go to their office for the interview, take a look around their office. See if you can get some visual clues. Oh, look, they have pictures of antique cars. Oh, I noticed you have antique cars. Are you a car collector? You want to start building this rapport with your interviewer so that you get this personal connection. And finally, be yourself, relax, take a breath. You're going to get through it. Everybody has to go through it. And now go do it.
Yeah, there you go. So, are you walking out, Paul? We can still see you.
No, what I'm doing is my battery is going low, so I'm going to try and stretch my battery over here, plug in so I don't die.
No problem. Hey, so I have a little bit of a story I'll tell while you figure your computer system out. So I went to the Slice Gib Gab event. I'm sorry. No, it's not Nice. It's the Next Gen Gib Gab and the Slice Creative Network. The Gib Gab was inspired by the Slice Creative Network event. And I had no idea what people did in the industry at all, and really was figuring things out as I was going along. And I met with 15 different companies, and I had my resume, my coordinator. I didn't know the ins and outs of the industry quite yet. I had a little bit of experience, and I followed up with every single person. And what had happened is I landed about 4 to 5 meetings from people that said, "Yeah, we don't really know what you do, but you seem like a really cool guy. And so we wanted to just talk with you for a little bit." And the one was a fabricator, one was Brian Marlowe from SeaWorld. And then, of course, I landed a job at Nickelodeon shortly after that, just based on my personality and being a kind guy. And what I want to say is that, the type of personality that I had did not necessarily fit with all the other companies. So when you're figuring out who you are and who you're going to be, I think it's important to just be who you are, or maybe a little bit of a plussed up version of yourself, so that you're aligning yourself with the right company that has the right kind of vibe that you do. So Paul, I have a couple more questions. And then we have a lot of questions that have come in from the audience too. But before I pass it on to Kelly and Dave, you ask about the interview question. I know you've hired people over the years, many people. When somebody asks you, or you ask a question of, "Hey, tell me about a situation that you had a challenge and what you faced," what are you looking for in that answer? Like, what's the whole point of it? What's your take on that?
So the interviewer wants to see how you respond to a difficult situation. And interviewers think that they're the first one to ever ask that question, which is ridiculous. So they want to know how you respond, and so that's part of it. One part is how you're going to react in this moment with this interviewer. The second part is they really do want to understand your problem-solving skills. Mm-hmm. We had this issue with this person in our group who really didn't pull their weight, and I had to have a difficult conversation with them. So they want to know that you can have difficult conversations. They want to understand how you communicate. So it's kind of two-pronged. They want to know, again, how you're going to act in the moment with them, how you're going to answer this question. And then the answer to the question is the second part is how you problem solve. So if you say, "Yeah, we had this guy or girl who didn't really pull their weight, so I kicked them off the team. That's how I solved it." Yeah, that's one way. But another way is we convince them that as a team member, they have to contribute, and we're all relying on them, and then they start to understand how you think as a person.
There you go. Thank you. That's great. Look, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Kelly. I've taken up a lot of time here. So Kelly, we have some of our own questions. We have the audience questions. So audience members who are watching live across Facebook and YouTube, go ahead and ask any questions you have right now. And we're going to go ahead and answer them. Bye for now, guys.
So, Robbie, this was such a great question. It came in the comments that we're rolling through. How do you tweak your elevator pitch for electronic delivery during times where face-to-face networking is not happening?
At that point, it's not so much an elevator pitch as it's a resume and a essentially it's a letter. I mean, it's a expression of interest, like, hey, I'm interested in your company. You're doing some really great stuff, and that's one of the things I would like to see my career go towards. And here's my resume. As you can see, my resume, I'm just out of college, but I'm very enthusiastic. I would love to have a moment to speak with you in person so you can hear a little bit more about me. Because everything can get lost in electronic correspondence,
Right.
Tweets or texts or whatever. Really what you want to do is you want people to hear the enthusiasm in your voice and the authenticity in your voice and how motivated you are. And you're not going to get any of that stuff in a sent letter or email, right? So you really want to try and see if you can schedule, hey, can we just schedule just 10 minutes of your time to pick your brain about what I'm doing in my career? And by the way, people like me love to hear that. Like, oh, you want to talk to me? So, feed the ego. It's not a bad thing, okay? So just, I promise just 10 minutes, and I just like to talk to you. I'm not going to pitch you any ideas. I know you can't hear ideas. By the way, that's true. You can't hear ideas. But I just want to talk to you about my career and what I would like to do, and I would love to get your opinion on that. That's the way I would go. That's the way I would write it.
Okay. So I know a lot of people have their portfolios on iPads these days. I have both. Which do you prefer?
It's not a preference. I mean, iPads are fine. I find the gloss on the page or on the screen a little bit disruptive. But I liked where I can pinch and I can zoom in on something. I'm old school, so I'm really used to people carrying big portfolio cases around with But here's the thing. That was in the time when people actually used ink.
Yeah.
Nobody uses ink and paint anymore. It's all digital. So if it's going to be digital, it's okay. What's more important is tell me what you did. Tell me, did you paint this? Well, no, I didn't paint that. I worked on the project. Okay, well, you're kind of implying that you painted it. So, that's where you get into problems, is like, be honest, right. Or you can show the picture, but start out by saying, I didn't paint this. I worked on the project. I was the coordinator, and so you set it up so that as the interviewer, I don't have to ask, well, tell me, is this Photoshop or is this how, and then you go like, well, I don't know. I didn't do it. So it saves that whole step. So more importantly is, it's not important so much the medium, it's about the message. Okay. So
right.
Here's this project I did in school. I was responsible for laying out the queue and all this. And so let me tell you about some of the problems we had to solve, because the class instructor said we had to make it for 2,000 people, but we only had this much building, so we had to problem solve. That's the kind of thinking I want to hear. It's less important to me, like, well, the focus is off on the picture, the lighting's not right. I want to know your thought process, how you got there, right?
Right. I want to just throw this out there in case anybody has the glossy screen still on their iPad. You can get Papermate or a screen cover that makes it not glossy, and it's wonderful. And just throwing that out there for anyone listening.
And by the way, the comments I made about it was a Slice event in Orlando where it was a restaurant, and they have direct overhead lighting on each of the tables where you eat. It just makes sense. And so they would put their portfolio down, and you'd have this big glare, and you go like, well, I think there's something on this. And then, of course, now you can see all the greasy fingerprints on it, right? So it's like, so I speak of real world experience when I say, yes, you have fingerprints on your iPad. Trust me, do. And seriously, look at where you're going to go do your presentation. And you want to set yourself up for success, right? Of course, you want to. So think about how you're going to present. By the way, think about the room. Oh my God, my next interview is in 2 minutes and it's in the way back of the restaurant. Well, I'm going to get a head start so I don't waste time getting there. So, again, think about it as you're in competition. So think about winning that competition.
Right. So Dave has a question. I don't know. I don't know a better person to ask this question than you, Dave. So I'm gonna throw it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have my own strategies for it, but you had mentioned that during this time when people aren't meeting face to face, that it's more of a you expressing your interest, giving your resume, figuring that out. What would you recommend? How would you recommend making that initial connection with these people? Is it over LinkedIn? Is it through the company's contact page? How would you recommend sending that first message?
I think it's all of the above. I mean, there's no one answer. I've never found a real use for LinkedIn. Sorry to say. I mean, I've never made a contact that I like. Oh, I have to go talk to this person. I know where they are. They're on LinkedIn. I just haven't done that. The TEA board. Everybody knows Blue Loop. Everybody knows Blue Loop. The website Blue Loop. Go there. There are still. TEA is still doing every week now several digital meetups, and so there's that. Just try and keep your ear to what's going on in the industry. If you hear of something going on, networking. How do you get to the influencers? It's always difficult when you can't meet in person. It's just try and keep up with the TEA and Blue Loop and these other next gen initiatives. That's the best way, because a lot of people of experience go do these things. They are there.
Yeah, and I was at one of the TEA mixers a few weeks ago where we were mixing, and they would just throw us to random 5-person to a room in one of these Zoom calls, and you'd give your little elevator pitch, you get to know people, and then you'd move on to the next room. And I found that a lot of people have been posting their LinkedIn profiles to the chats, and that even if you don't directly talk to somebody at one of these mixers, like there's TEA, there's Slice. I mean, everybody's hosting these mixers and panels and everything. And if you can see the attendees, and you see someone or somebody who's working at a company that you're really interested in, most of the people who are going to these they are spending their free time to go to these events are the same people who are more than willing to respond to you on LinkedIn or anything else. I mean, so it's very easy to just look these people up on LinkedIn, shoot them a message, say, hey, I saw you were at this mixer. I'd love to chat more about what you do in your company, and it's been very successful for me and kept me sane during this time to just be able to reach out and talk to people.
I think it's important too that because this is extraordinary time, that you have to think outside the box a little bit. And you know what? Your dream job of Universal or Disney or wherever may not be there right now, but you still have to pay the bills, right? So think a little bit outside the box. Think about, if you're a writer or an artist, think about marketing companies, advertising companies, video game companies. Lots of times museum staff is looking for people. And so, maybe you can get a job, a paying job, but more importantly, you're building your skill and you're building your portfolio. And yes, it might not be your dream job, but it's not your last job. It's your first job. And it's not going to be your only job. So just keep working at it. A lot of people at Disney, a lot of the ride engineers came out of aerospace. They all worked for Lockheed and they built, bombs and stuff. But they wanted to be roller coaster designers. And so, but that wasn't they didn't get there right at first. They had to go work in aerospace for a while. A lot of the designers at Disney came from like Mattel and toy companies and merchandising companies, because it's the same kind of idea. You're going to design something for an audience. You're going to design something for a consumer. It's a different kind of consumer. It's a different thing. The idea is that you have to connect with the consumer. That is universal, right? So think about other places to hone your skills if your dream job is not available when you graduate, because there's lots of places. I was just on a website the other day called KiwiCo, and they make little craft toys for kids, STEM toys. And I looked at their hiring, and they're looking for art directors and illustrators. They're looking for a bunch of people. And there's that's
a great idea.
Yeah, stuff like that. And there's a group called I think hiringcreatives.net. They're always listing out jobs, and a lot of them are in video game design. But they're jobs out there for people that do what we do.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. So we had a question from Bilal, who I actually just met during quarantine. He said, great insights on device so far. What could prospects do to stand out and land a lasting positive impression when delivering elevator pitches? So I know, I don't know if there's any specific thing other than what you mentioned.
Well, it's just, I mean, you want to come across as being genuine.
Sure.
And being look, the first thing I think about before I even look at their portfolio, is this a person I want to be locked into an office with 8 hours, 10 hours a day?
Yeah.
Very simple. Look, this person, wow, he seems friendly, he seems nice, or she seems friendly and she seems nice. Okay, now I'm interested in seeing what you do. But if they don't pass that first step of, they could be the most talented person in the world, but if they're not a pleasant person, I don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
So you want to be friendly and have a smile. Look me in the eye. Remember my name. Shake my hand. Hey, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for be polite. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me for a little while. Those things will make such a big impression.
Definitely. So Kelly, did you have another audience question?
I did. So Youngie Liang, she is one of my wonderful classmates at SCAD, and her thesis just got approved, so yay. But her question is, if this situation is in Asia, like if you're dealing with an Asian company, do these elevator pitches, do these methods also work there? Yeah,
they do. I mean, I know in my company they do, because we're an Asian company, but we have Westerners here. So it does work. I think probably in Asia, it's more focused on hard skills than soft skills. So you really want to, if you're a really good illustrator or writer or engineer, you want to focus on that more than oh, I'm a good person, you'll like to have me around. That is impactful. But if you have very good skills, that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for people that can know how to do this stuff. And by the way, and I can only speak to China, I can't speak to the rest of Asia. The theme park industry is very young. It's in its infancy. So there's going to be lots of opportunities, I think, in the next few years in Asia, China specifically. So keep that in mind.
That is really good information.
Great, cool. Well, we're kind of wrapping up on our hour here. I think we did pretty good on time. Everything that was really great, Paul. Thanks for coming on board here. We really appreciate it, folks. All the people watching right now, feel free to go ahead and comment with your 74 to 5 word elevator pitch in the comment thread. We'd love to see them. And I think that the biggest challenge to myself and new people is just the idea of going to a networking event in general and trying to just talk to people cold who you have no idea who they are. And it gets easier and easier the more people you know. And I'm sure Dave and Kelly, you guys get it. Like, if you know one person, then you know another person, and then they introduce you to another person, and you travel in packs. So if you go with 3 people, they're going to probably know 3 people. And then you start your network expanding out. And it's all very scary. I've been in the industry for many, many years. Even me, I go to an event, I feel intimidated. I'm like, I kind of don't really know. I don't know who these people are, or what's this going on here. So it is intimidating, but it gets easier the more you do it, and the more people you know, the more you can get introduced to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're ever going to an in-person event in Orlando, chances are I'll be there. So reach out to me beforehand, and then come find me. I'll be that person to show you around the first time, so you don't have to go in knowing absolutely nobody. You can know me.
Yeah. And then, I always say this at the end of every show. You can go ahead and find me on LinkedIn, Patrick Kling. Find me on LinkedIn. You probably already linked in with me if you found this somehow. And just a plug before we head out, next week we have, or 2 weeks from now, we have Cynthia Brown coming on the show. We're going to talk all about museums and how that relates and job opportunities that you may even not even think of. Paul, you touched on it a little bit earlier. So Cynthia Brown's fantastic. We're really excited to have her on the show. It's gonna be awesome. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Kelly, Dave, congratulations on your big news,
Thank you
your
very
career news. I think that's very hopeful for everyone.
Blessed.
And we'll see you guys around the bend. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good one.